that man, Muammar Gaddafi, came to power in Libya, not in a coup that killed people, it was a bloodless coup. And when he took power, America was there, Britain was there, they had bases there, they controlled the sweetest crude oil in the world from Libya. And if you notice, when you go to the Marine song, you know,
Halls of Montezuma.
From the halls of Montezuma
of Tripoli.
to the shores of Tripoli,
Right. Mm-hmm.
we will fight our country's battle on the land and on the sea. What were you doing in Montezuma, and what were you doing in Tripoli? See, this attitude that somehow Western powers have a right to the resources of weaker nations in Africa, in Central and South America, Gaddafi rejected that notion. And under Reagan, he was called, the media called him the mad dog of the East, of the Middle East. Mad dog. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you do with mad dogs? You killed them. And I told you in 1985, I had an experience that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said to me, on that wheel, you take it or let it alone. That Reagan had met with his Joint Chiefs of Staff to plan a war. He didn't tell me where the war was going to take place or who the war was planned against. But he told me to hold a press conference and make it known that I got it from him, Elijah Muhammad, on the wheel. Well, I didn't know exactly where this war was, but I kept watching how things developed. And while I was on a world tour, I was in Belize in Central America, and President Reagan came on the television announcing that no Americans should go to Libya. No Americans should do business with Libya. That's when it started. When I got to Africa, by the time I was in Ghana, it crystallized for me that it was Libya that America was going to war with. So when I got to Benin, I sent my family home and got on a Aeroflot Russian jet and flew to Tripoli to warn Brother Gaddafi of what America was planning to do. Yes, I did that. Why? Because that man was a friend of the nation. He was a friend of Elijah Muhammad. He helped Elijah Muhammad get the mosque on Stony Island Avenue originally. He loaned us $5 million to put personal care products up for the members of the Nation of Islam. And I know him as a revolutionary. I know him as a man that has helped governments throughout Africa. He helped the IRA. He helped others. So others did not like him for his revolutionary stand. He finally kicked out the British. He kicked out the Americans. He took the oil and then used it for the benefit of the Libyan people. And he wrote in his green book that he saw the future of the world in the hands of black people.
We'll be back. That's a good segue into my next question. Okay. Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable, is in our studio, and we are going to be taking calls, and you can also go to Facebook.
More intelligent conversation with the governor of talk radio.
It is 4:55. I'm Cliff Kelley on the Talk of Chicago as we continue our conversation with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And that sweet violin you heard was him. that was the minister. Not my favorite piece that you did. I love Mendelssohn when you did that. But that was a great event for your birthday.
I'm just completing an album.
Oh, are you?
And on that album, the minister is surrounded by some of the greatest musicians, black, white, Jewish, Gentile, Asian, Buddhist. It's
You know why I'm so happy to hear that? Because I know what happened last time. I was involved in that meeting. Remember that? When
yes, of
yeah,
course.
Yeah. Yeah. These folks were going to, supposedly were going to accompany you, and they pulled out, and we had a heck of a conversation
Well, we
relative to
had
that. But a lot of them came anyway. Yeah.
we had a great evening,
Yeah, we
and
did.
I hope
It was wonderful.
that you'll be looking out for the album
Well, you know I
when
will.
it comes out, because some of the finest artists. Do you remember little Jimmy Scott?
Sure, certainly.
Well, we recorded
We got-
Jimmy. He
yeah.
was 83 years old. We recorded Shaka, and the last person, believe it or not, when we were doing something with Shaka in Hollywood, into the studio walked, oh God, Tina Marie.
Oh, okay.
And Tina
You know, yeah.
presented me with a poster, not a poster, a painting that she did while she was going up and down the Nile River. And she gave me a record, and she said, Minister, I just want to be on your album. I mean, you'll be surprised who's on it. And so she gave me this record, or CD, and when I was back in Michigan at the farm, my son and I were driving, and he said, Daddy, you need to listen to this. And it was Tina Marie singing a song called A Message to the Black Man.
Wow.
And so by the grace of God, Tina may be on that album, and I'm going to put a violin part on there with her. And unfortunately, we lost a great soul. But getting back to Muammar Gaddafi,
Yeah, I'm saying
You know.
the music threw us off. Yeah.
dear listeners, look, whatever you may think of him, most of our thinking of great black men or white men that power does not agree with, the media has always been used to destroy their image and their reputation. You can go down the list. I don't want to waste a lot of time on that. But Gaddafi had so much respect for Gamal Abdel Nasser and Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah that when the African, the AAU
Right.
was functioning, Gaddafi advanced to the AAU the idea of Kwame Nkrumah, which is the United States of Africa.
Right.
And I was with Gaddafi when he said to the people of the AAU, we cannot compete in this world with 53 independent states all acting individually. So he spent money to foster the African Union, leading to the United States of Africa.
And he's the head of the AU now.
No, he was.
Oh, he's not anymore.
2 years ago. It's
Okay.
only on a yearly.
Yeah.
basis.
Okay, I know he was. I didn't know whether he still was or
So
not.
to harm
Yeah.
this man, because you're angry with him, I know. I want to get, when this break is over,
Yeah.
I want to get to the pain of civil war.
We will do that right after we come back. And those of you on the line, please hold. And you can also go to Facebook. I'm Cliff Kelley on WVON, the Talk of Chicago, with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan.
CNN.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It is 5:10 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON, and we are so pleased to continue our conversation with none other than the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who is in our studio, and we're always pleased to have him. We're honored to have him. And our call-in number is 591-1690, and of course we're streaming live at www.wvon.com. And we're going to take some calls in a moment, and also you can go on Facebook if you want to get a a question in. All right? Brother Minister, again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to go right into the situation with our President, Commander-in-Chief, Obama, and his treatment of the situation in Libya. And I recall what you said on Savior's Day. I thought it was so interesting. It said all of this turmoil that's going on in the world will come to your shores here in America. So sort of like you were saying, get ready for it because it's going to come here. And then you told the president, you said be prepared because it will be coming to your shores, America, to your door, you said. And your advice to Obama was to remember the words you're making to other nations.
Well, today, our dear brother, has to be very, very careful in this decision that he and his Secretary of State and Sarkozy and Prime Minister Cameron and others are planning. They would love to go into Libya and kill Brother Gaddafi and kill his children, as they did with Saddam Hussein and his sons Qusay and Uday. You must remember, dear people of America, that whenever government wants you to think and act in a certain way that would bring justification to an action that they are already planning to make, they must make the person that they hate a boogeyman. Now, nobody wants civil war. It is the bloodiest of all kinds of wars because you're fighting your own brothers. You're fighting the people of your own language and culture and history. So in every nation, brothers and sisters, there is dissatisfaction. And what the CIA does is go into a country and move among the people that are dissatisfied to stimulate a revolt against a leader that they don't like because they want regime change. I want to be specific. When George W. Bush was president, he said they wanted regime change in Iran, in Korea. Regime change. How do you get regime change, honest America? How do you do that? Congress, the Congress of the United States, voted to spend $150 million to replace the government in Iran that America doesn't like. So they send their agents in to work among the, the dissatisfied. So when they had this election and the people in Iran rose up, they have legitimate grievances, all right, but stimulated from the outside. So President Obama didn't want to put his foot into that cage lest somebody say America inspired it, because it was America's policy to destabilize that government. Well, what about Libya? See, how much money is being spent to arm the so-called rebels? They're dissatisfied. Well, what is their dissatisfaction about? Do they have jobs? Yes. Do they have food? Yes. Has Gaddafi used the oil money to build Libya? Yes. Did Gaddafi use oil money and discover water under the Sahara Desert and brought that water to the surface and brought water from Benghazi all the way to the border almost of Tunisia? Did he impose farming in the desert so that they could feed their own people? Yes. Are there billions of dollars that he's spending building homes, building apartments for his people? Yes. So something is under this. And so when America, England, France, three imperialist powers want to destabilize that country, is it that you're so concerned? Now listen to this hypocrisy, American people. Is it that you're so concerned over the blood that is being shed in Libya when you look the other way when the Israeli Defense Force was bombing the innocent people of Gaza? Unarmed men, women, and children, but our government looked the other way. You looked the other way when the Israeli Defense Force went into Lebanon thinking that they were going to have an easy victory. Then you had to come out with your tail between your legs. Don't tell me and wise black people or white people that you're interested in black suffering. Where were you in Rwanda? Where are you in the Congo? Why did you go to Darfur? Because oil is there. No, you don't want to save the Libyan people. That's your noble motive to hide your wicked agenda. Now, I want to warn you in the name of Allah that this is more complex than what you think. Go into Libya if you want to. The Libyans do not want foreign occupation on their land. And when you make that kind of move, if you're not careful, you'll unite the Libyan people against you. And again, Gaddafi wasn't sitting in any tent twiddling his thumbs over these last 10 years. This man has been investing in African development. This man has been moving throughout Africa. This man has friends all over the world. He may not be your friend, but if you take him out and kill him like he's some rotten fella that wants to kill his own people, what did you do in Waco? Right. What did you do when your people rose up? Did you talk them out of it? No, they had weapons, you bombed them. What did you do in Philadelphia with the movement? Did you talk them out of their home or did you bomb them? We didn't hear any outcry from you religious hypocrites that love the lives of human beings. You're a liar and a hypocrite. And I warn my brother, don't you let these wicked demons move you in a direction that will absolutely ruin your future with your people in Africa and throughout the world. They don't like the way you handle Mubarak. They don't like the way you're handling the situation in the Arab world. So I would advise you to be careful and move with wisdom and skill. My advice would be, why don't you organize a group of respected Americans and ask for a meeting with Gaddafi? You can't order him to step down and get out. Who the hell do you think you are? That you can talk to a man that built a country over 42 years and ask him step down and get out? Can anybody ask you? Well, there's a lot now going to ask you to step out of the White House because they don't want no black face in the White House. Be careful, brother, how you handle this situation because it is coming to America. It has already started. Look in Wisconsin. Look in Ohio. Look at what's going on in your country and remember your words because the American people are rising against their own government. It's not Muslims, it's not black people, it's white militia that are angry with their government and they are well armed. Are you going to tell them, put your arms down and let's talk it over peacefully? I hope so. But if not, America will be bathed in blood, not because Farrakhan said so, but because the dissatisfaction in America has reached the boiling point. Be careful how you manipulate the dissatisfaction in Libya and other parts of the Muslim world.
The Honorable Minister, Louis Farrakhan.
More intelligent conversation.
It's 5:24 on the Talk of Chicago, and I want to say this, that our wonderful guest has said, it's Thursdays, and for those of you who are regular listeners, I get off a little early on Thursday because we have the show, the Urban Business Roundtable, so he is going to stay with me and us until 6:23, okay? And we have a special caller here. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, Mr. Governor of Talk Radio, and good afternoon to you, Minister Farrakhan.
This is none other than the Reverend Dr. Jeremiah Wright, who is on our live line. He wanted to talk to you, Brother Minister.
Good afternoon, my dear and beloved brother. How are you, and how is your family?
Doing fine, sir. Doing fine.
Well, I want to express on behalf of myself, my family, all the members of the Nation of Islam, and thinking black people, how much we love you and we thank God for the womb of your mother and the life germ of your father that produced such a great, magnificent, scholarly activist. I tell you, I don't know what other kind of names I can give my brother, but he's great preacher, teacher, and guide for our people.
He's also a very kind man because he hadn't said anything about me that was negative, which you Doctor, I'm going to take care of that, okay?
Okay.
All right. You sent me the information. We've been a little busy, but I'm working on it.
All right, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Keep listening, will you please?
Will do.
All right. Dr.
Love you, Doc.
Oh, he's great. Dr. Jeremiah Wright. He has done so much, and his knowledge, it's the two of you together.
He's a scholar.
Oh, he is.
And, the American people really misjudged him, and the media was so vicious in the way you went into that man's church and pulled something out of his sermon to use it against Barack Obama and to force a split.
Yep.
This man loves this country, and he fought for this country. He was a medical officer and took care of President Lyndon Baines Johnson. And to talk about a man that made such a contribution to America and a contribution to the least of these and made his church the front line of service for our people, I think we owe him a great debt of gratitude, and the media owes him a great apology.
I agree with that. Let's take a caller. I had another question for you, but we are going to take a break shortly, so I'll take the caller first. Sister Rita is calling from Las Vegas. Hi, Sister Rita.
How you doing, Brother Kelley? I would like to thank you for having an opportunity to talk to you, as well as having Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, on your talk show. I also want to say I went to Savior's Day. I brought my family, and it was such a beautiful time. I want to thank the MGT and the FOI. They was beautiful, Minister Farrakhan. They treated the people like excellent. Thank you. My question I want to talk about today is, if you notice, if you read in the Bible of St. John, where the great, wonderful Jesus, he everywhere he went to speak, the Jews followed him, and they spoke against him. And even every time he said, I speak of not my will, but of my Father's will, the Jews mocked him. They called him a fornication. And he pointed out that they had two different fathers. He said that ye are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth from the beginning. So I wanted to ask Minister Farrakhan to speak on this, and the question I wanted to ask was, what did Jesus say to get him crucified? And also, you talked about the dollar, and you said that on the back of the dollar there was an original signet that was supposed to be there, but it spoke of how Moses was there parting the sea, and how the Caucasian took that off there because it would have alerted the black masses of what the dollar really meant and how we was never really free in the Constitution. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to talk to you, and it's so excellent, Brother Kelley, to hear your voice again.
Thank you so much, Sister Rita. Thank you for your call. We're gonna have the minister respond to you.
I'm just gonna speak very briefly.
Can we do it as soon as we come back?
Sure.
Okay. We'll respond, Sister Rita, right after this break for the news.
More intelligent conversation.
It's 5:37. I'm Cliff Kelley. This is The Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON, streaming live at www.wvon.com with our great in-studio guest. We love him. He honors us with his presence a number of times, and we certainly appreciate it. He is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, head of the Nation of Islam. And Sister Rita called from Las Vegas. Can you respond?
Yes, just briefly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole history of Jesus is one that really needs to be studied, because as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, 75% of what you read is prophecy. 25% is history. So what you look at 2,000 years ago is the historical Jesus who was a prophet, who prefigured the future Jesus who would actually be the Messiah. And when the Messiah comes, he comes to bring in a brand new world and civilization. So he's not loved. His followers are not loved. And so, yes, they followed Jesus around and they hated him because he did good. And in the Quran, it reads, you know, which of my good works do you stone me? Our teachings takes thugs off the corner and makes them civilized. Our teaching cleans up pimps and prostitutes. Our teaching stops people from selling drugs. Our teachings go into the colleges and universities and help them to be responsible for the ignorance of our people so that we can unite and lift the masses of our people. This is our teaching, and those who have profited from our ignorance didn't like Jesus, and unfortunately today they didn't like Elijah Muhammad, my father and teacher, and they don't like me.
Let's go to Minister Rogers in St. Louis. Thank you, sir. You're on the Talk of Chicago with Minister Louis Farrakhan.
Yes, thank you, brother, and I appreciate this opportunity. Minister Farrakhan, I want to say, from me and from my family, I want to say thank you for loving black people and all people more than life itself. And, Minister, you have proven your point with an angelic voice of truth. You have proven your point. Yeah, the people who constantly debate and want to argue with you, they need to understand that ruling white people have always used the media and laws and money to justify any treatment against black people. And I wanted to also say that, you know, I thought about something that Jerry Lewis said, how that many times, you know, the Jews are trying to put you on the defensive. But, you know, Jerry Lewis said something when they accused him of stealing the money from the Muscular Dystrophy Foundation. He said, to those who are my friends, they need no answer, no explanation. He said, but to those who are my enemies, no answer will suffice. And Minister, I say that anyone that has heard you over a period of time, and I want to thank Minister Donald in St. Louis for doing such a good job of keeping me informed, anyone that has heard you over a period of time knows that you speak the truth. And therefore, if the white people or, or black people want to debate, they're debating just because of debate, because the truth has been proven. And finally, I'd just like to say this. I asked a dark-skinned man who's a businessman in St. Louis who grew up near Libya. I've known him for a long time. He owns a gas station in St. Louis, and I pulled over when I heard about the atrocities taking place in Libya. I asked him, I said, man, tell me something. Look, what should I believe? Is Gaddafi good for the people or evil? This man left out of his business, came around from behind the counter and walked outside and talked to me. He said, look, Gaddafi wants to unify Africa. He is good for the people, and the people love him, but the white folk do not want him there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Well, I think you have said I don't need to say more.
Mm-hmm.
The one word that touched me was that you love truth more than you love life. And that is true, because when you speak truth in the manner that God impassions me to do, always there's a chance that you may lose your life. But the best way for any human being to spend their life is to spend their lives in the cause of truth. All the great ones that came before us gave their lives for truth. White, black, Asian, if you spend your life in the cause of truth, life will remember your life, and history will record you among the greats.
And that's what you are, sir. Let's go to Ram from the east side.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum. It's an honor to talk to Minister Farrakhan
Wa alaikum
and
salam.
great Cliff Kelley.
Thank you.
I do the Underground Railroad TV show that comes on CAN TV. But I want to ask you a question. My question is, you have individuals that have been indicted, okay, like Alderman Virgil Jones, okay, Jesse Evans, okay, and Ricky Hinder stepped down. Why is there such an attack to get rid of black leadership when they're standing up strong? And I know you know Alderman Virgil Jones, but
Yes,
why is there such an attack like that?
Thank you so much.
I appreciate this.
Thank
Assalamu
you.
alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, brother.
That's the question that wanted to come up anyway, about black leadership in general.
Well, I want to say this, that we're in a second period of Reconstruction. You remember after the Emancipation Proclamation, black people were the artisans, the craftsmen. You could hardly find a white man during slavery with a hammer, a saw in his hand, because all that work was done by us. We built the mansions in the South, so when we were set free, we were the artisans, we were the craftsmen. Did you know that there were 60 black towns that started after emancipation? Blacks voted in blocks and put black people in office in the South, and we were in the Congress. And when whites saw that the economy of the South was being ruined because we made them rich off of cotton. Oh man, in this book, let me stop 1 second, because this is so important. Did you know the great betrayal of 1877? Have you heard about it? Did you know that in November of 1876, Samuel Tilden and Rutherford B. Hayes, Republican and Democrat, went against each other for the presidency of the United States? And after the election, there was controversy because no one knew really who really won. So in January the 26th of 1877, the American Banking Association met. They were discussing taxes, and they met again on the 7th. But on February 26th, they met in the Wormley Hotel in Washington. And what was the discussion? Samuel Tilden represented the cotton barons in the South. Rutherford B. Hayes represented the rich people of the North, and they compromise. And here's what the compromise was. If Rutherford B. Hayes were allowed to be president, he would remove all the federal troops out of the South and return the economy of the South into the hands of the cotton barons. And the North, of course, would get the presidency and whatnot. So when the troops were moved out of the South that protected blacks, then the Ku Klux Klan rose, the Night Riders, lynchings, and all of this happened. Blacks were pulled out from their positions of power. Black towns destroyed so that blacks would have to go back on the plantation now as sharecroppers, because you couldn't call them slaves, but you fixed it so they really were not free. And so today, it's second Reconstruction period. Okay, blacks, over 500 of them mayors, you've got a few governors, you've got a black president. Oh man, you've got chiefs of police. Oh, you got us in the Justice Department. And white folks sitting back, not intelligent ones, the more sick ones, they're saying, look, these niggers have taken over our country. We have to take our country back. Take it back from who? Do you think that a manager of white affairs who manages your affairs and gives you a profit and has no stock in the company, you got to take the company back from him because he's a face on the corporation that says you hired a black man with intelligence? Stop it. Black folk haven't taken your country, but if you look deep enough, I'll tell you who your country has been taken from. It's been taken from you, not by Obama, not by Holder, not by black people. It's been taken over by those who control Congress. Oh, hello. Are we talking about corporate interests? Are we talking about Israeli Zionists? Who are we talking about? What about these congressmen that's supposed to represent the will of the American people and are afraid to say anything critical of a member of the Jewish community lest they be put out of power? Let me run the roll here of all of those who have been called anti-Semites. Some of them you might know. Let me see. Booker T. Washington, W.E.B. Du Bois, Marcus Garvey, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Honorable Elijah Muhammad, President Nelson Mandela, Bishop Desmond Tutu, Julian Bond, Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, as we knew him years ago, Andrew Young, Kwesi Mfume, the Reverends Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Joseph Lowry. Yes. All you got to do is say something critical and you're brushed with that stroke that you're an anti-Semite. Carter criticized Israel's treatment of the Palestinians. He's an anti-Semite. Well, will the real anti-Semites please stand up?
When we come back, I want to ask you about ABC 7 and whether they misquoted you or not. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
More intelligent conversation with the governor of Talk Radio.
It's 5:54. Cliff Kelley with Minister Farrakhan, and we was talking about the situations with being anti-Semitic, and so many people have been accused of that. Tell us about what happened on ABC 7. A lot of people said that they thought you were misquoted on there by Mr. Gowdy and Mr. Lassiter in the final call.
No, I don't think that Mr. Gowdy misquoted me. I think ABC quoted me, but they picked out of a 4-hour speech something that would make their point. And then, of course, from what I saw, he went to Mr. Lassiter, and in some part of Mr. Lassiter's answer, it said that the book was a pack of lies. And he said that we probably need to sit down and dialogue with Mr. Farrakhan. And when I heard that, I said, oh, I'm sure he didn't get that one from Mr. Foxman. So when Chuck Gowdy asked our new mayor, Rahm Emanuel, would he be willing to meet with Farrakhan, I thought his answer was brilliant, because he said, well, if I'm asked, I'll deal with it then. But I don't want to answer through you. Mm-hmm. No disrespect to you. Mm-hmm. So I think he made a wise statement.
Well, you've been asking to meet with leaders of the Jewish community for years.
Yeah, but, there are conditions. And the conditions are, Farrakhan, you have to apologize. You have to denounce secret relationships as a calumny against the Jewish people. And I mean, please don't come to me with those conditions, because I can't bow down and come to you on bended knee like you are my master. I only have one, and that's God and his Mahdi or his Christ. I don't have any other master. So unfortunately, we're going to have to meet on terms of mutual respect and equality, man to man. And I think we should. I think the time is overdue. And I would hope that you would be wise enough to sit down and let's talk about this and see if we can't work something out that will be mutually beneficial for both our people. Lastly on that, I wrote to Mr. Abraham Foxman. I sent him the book, and I sent him a letter which I CC'd to all the major presidents of the major Jewish organizations. I sent this book to our President Barack Obama. I did send it to our new mayor, Rahm Emanuel. I sent it to David Axelrod. I sent it to Timothy Geithner. I sent it to Larry Summers. I sent it to Ben Bernanke, and of course he sent it back. And I sent it to all of the black leadership that I could think of, and I did get a letter from Congressman Towns. And he was very nice, but he told me that I should never, and he didn't say it like that, but you can't expect the dialogue when you're threatening people. See, but you don't know my mission. Yeah. I am not before you as some Negro leader. I am from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and I am a warner to you from God. And when I say to you, look, if you fight me, you're not fighting me, you're fighting the God of heaven that I answer to. And I said, if you continue to do this, he will destroy your influence here and throughout the world. I'm just like all those prophets. Some of them you killed, but this one, not hardly. You killed your last when you killed Jesus, my brother.
Thank you so much. When we come back, we're going to ask you to tell us, among other things, we'll take a couple of calls, Brother Minister. Or maybe we can put out, maybe you and the mayor-elect can meet right here, WVON.
No, I would never do that, Cliff. This is so sensitive.
I know, I'm just saying.
When people get behind microphones with cameras, they feel they have to show out.
Oh, well, we wouldn't have that
but
anyway.
This is a serious discussion that should be done in private. And if there are things that we mutually agree upon, then we come out in the public and say to the public, look at the strides that we have made.
Brother Minister, I was being facetious. That would never happen from his part either, believe me. Believe me. We'll be back with more calls, and I have another question about where black people should be going.
Voice of the Nation, 1690 WVON.
Good evening, good evening. It's 6:09. This is the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON, and we are so pleased that the minister has consented. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan consented to stay over until the end of the show, which on Thursdays, for those of you who are familiar, is till 6:23, and then the Urban Business Roundtable starts after that. And let me also mention to you that I want to remind you, or tell you, because this is just great, that those of you who might have missed something can go to my personality page after 6:30 and see the live video on the minister's conversation here. And I want to mention, this is something that was very important. Well, everything you said was on Savior's Day. It's time for America to free blacks, indeed, and support separation. And it's time for blacks to work for their own salvation.
Well, Cliff, you know, our leaders, and rightly so, are demanding of the United States government that they produce jobs for us. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said and wrote in the Muhammad Speaks that they cannot provide jobs for their own millions of unemployed and our people as well. And with our children dropping out of school, uneducated, ill-prepared, and they're putting on television that jobs that pay money are the jobs in engineering and architecture. And if you look at how many blacks are in engineering and how many blacks are in architecture, and now even the engineers and the architects are being laid off. There are no jobs, brothers and sisters, for you and me. So where is our future if we're depending on a benevolent white president or a benevolent black president to try to make jobs for you? President Obama would have to have the skill of 1,000 Houdinis to produce enough jobs for white people and us too. And if the jobs were produced, as history has shown us, it'd be more for them and less for us. So what we're saying is that we need some earth that we can call our own. There are 14 million Americans out of work. 16% of black people are unemployed. 12% Latinos, and the unemployment rate generally is 9%. So brothers and sisters, if we really want to prepare a future for our people, we have to think in terms of land. And while I'm on the subject of why land is important, did you know that Henry Kissinger, our former Secretary of State, now I want you to listen to his words. He said a few years back that we needed to cull or get rid of over 2 billion human beings on our planet because the resources are getting more scarce, the population is getting more, and white people are getting less on the planet. Black and brown and yellow are multiplying. So to cull 2 billion. Now these are the people, remember, who are interested in Gaddafi killing some folk. I have in my hand words from Zbigniew Brzezinski, the former United States National Security Advisor under President Carter. He was giving a speech in 2008 to the Council on Foreign Relationships. Listen to his words. For the first time in human history, almost all of humanity is politically activated, politically conscious, and politically interactive. What are you saying, Mr. Brzezinski? That group that wants one world government and control of all the resources of our planet is saying that the people are rising, they're awakening so much so that we are losing control. Then at the end of his talk, he said, in early times, it was easier to control 1 million people than to physically kill 1 million people. But today, it is infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. It is easier to kill than to control. Now, having those words in your heart and in your mind, why is the AIDS pandemic so strong in the black community? Why is the black on black rape and crime so heavy in urban centers all across this nation? Why do we lead in all areas of disease, heart disease, diabetes, stroke? You name it, we got it. We are dying, and the poor are dying not only in America, but in Central America, South America, Africa. They are culling the population of the planet. So don't you be deceived by Sarkozy, the Prime Minister of France, with all those Muslims in France and a declining white population, and Miss Merkel of Germany or Mr. Cameron of Great Britain. They are witnessing the decline of white populations in Europe. And in 50 years, they're saying that Europe won't be white anymore. So now, how are they going to survive? If they're dying without nobody killing them, they're just not producing. So white supremacy says, kill those who stand in the way of a future for us. So my dear brothers and sisters, land is critical. And so we are engaged in learning how to build hoop houses in the middle of the city so we can provide healthy food for ourselves and our families, and do this in our own backyards or lots in the city that are not being used. And they just passed a law in the Congress that eventually will forbid us from growing our own food. They are killing the American people through the food that we consume. So until we take our mouths out of the kitchen of these corporate giants, we will all be dying an untimely death. And in conclusion, I want to say to my dear and beloved sister, Rihanna, I never would call you out of your name, nor did I. You represent black womanhood. You represent what our people can become once we become a dignified people. Do you know that civilization is not measured by the man? Civilization is measured by the woman. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, when you have no decent women, you have no decent men, for the woman is the mother of civilization. So if you want to raise black people, then you have to elevate the black woman. So Hollywood has designed this for you, that black men should be lazy, shiftless, rapists, the chicken thief, the fat mammy, the cunning whore, the shiftless, dull, listless, and inferior Negro. These have always been the stock in trade of Hollywood entertainment industry. So when you remember Step and Fetch It, when you remember all of our black performers of yesterday, we had to come in a certain way in order to get exposure in Hollywood. And now today, when you look at our comedians, when you look at the roles that we're playing, it's Step and Fetch It all over again. They put you on television, they make you rich, and you think that money makes what you do right. No, you're rich, Rihanna. You're rich, beloved brothers and sisters, but don't let richness deceive you into thinking that what you're doing is right. And may God bless us.
In our last few moments here, Brother Minister, we've had a number of people through Facebook and also on the screen, and I'm sorry we obviously can't get to everybody, about developing young black leadership. There are many people who think you're the one who can do this, but what do you say about that? We're in trouble.
We are in trouble, but there's a new crop of young black people coming up that are fearless, and all they need is the right guidance, and we will have a great future. Harry Belafonte was speaking at Howard, and he was so surprised that the students at Howard did not know recent African American history, much less previous African American history. And so they don't want Farrakhan on the college campuses. In fact, they've made it a terrible thing to invite me. But I was invited to Howard University on the 1st of April, and I'm going, paying my own way, bringing my staff. I'm not asking for any honorarium. My black students are the honorarium. Can I close with this quote from Mr. Thomas Jefferson, one of the founding fathers of this great country?
Slave owning.
Wasn't he a great slave owner?
Oh, yeah. He loved his female slaves particularly, didn't
naturally.
he? Yes.
Naturally. Now, Mr. Jefferson said this. Now, listen to his words. Blacks should be colonized to such place as the circumstances of the time should render most proper, sending them out with arms, implements of household and of handicraft arts, seeds, pairs of useful domestic animals, to declare them a free and independent people and extend to them our alliance and protection till they shall have acquired strength. Now, if this is what Thomas Jefferson said years ago when the problem between black and white was festering, and Abraham Lincoln, bless his heart, he told us straight up, you suffer from being in America with us, and we suffer from your presence. So he was offering black people to be sent either to Africa or Central America. Now, look, I know you're thinking, brothers and sisters, I ain't going nowhere. We helped build this country. Yeah, you really did. But listen, there's no future for you begging for a job. So suppose we put the Muslim program before Congress and ask the Congress, look, you don't have any future for us. And rather than our staying here and you just killing us off, putting us in jails under these little specious little charges and then working us as slaves, why not let us go and give us a good send-off? And you know what? We will thank you for that. And think about an alliance between black America and white America on some land that we can call our own. You've done this for Israel. Don't say you can't do it for us. We built the country. We fought, bled, and died to maintain your freedom. Think about it. Don't deceive us because we have a black president. No. He'll soon be out of office. And where's he going? He got to come back home to the hood and bring blessed Michelle and the babies. And maybe he can lead black America. Maybe he can lead black people all over the earth if he doesn't make mistakes in the way he handles the Mideast and Africa. Thank you for listening.
You are
Thank
wonderful.
You
Love
for
you.
allowing me
Love
this
you
privilege.
so much.
Thank
it's
you.
It's our privilege. Thank you so much. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, everyone. Stay tuned to the Talk of Chicago and Urban Business Roundtable.